Hey everyone, welcome today for our DB Impact Live. We have the pleasure of talking with Philip Brittain here. Philip and I actually met through another individual, JR Spear, who is a phenomenal individual. And Philip and I got to talking and realized that we had a good amount of stuff in common.
hmm
And I just love Philip's story and just wanted to give him an opportunity to kind of talk a little bit about that, as well as what he's doing moving forward. And him and I are going to talk just a lot of things business, but I'll stop talking and give Philip the opportunity here just to introduce himself, tell us a little bit more about who he is.
Awesome. Thanks, Drew. Yeah, it was fun getting to know you and a bunch of other folks on the Zoom with JR Spear. That was a great experience. Had a lot of fun with that. And I'm really excited for today. Just kind of jump in and get to know you and your story a little bit more, as well as kind of share mine now that I'm kind of moving on from construction and the handyman business. I'm kind of putting that to the side. I've got some other little things to wrap up, but moving forward, really stepping into what I've been doing for the last 15 years, but making it my only thing. And
Right.
that is speaking and teaching and really inspiring others to build unshakable confidence. That's something that I've spent a lifetime learning as someone who grew up with zero confidence. I struggled with confidence my entire life, and God taught me some really, really tough lessons throughout the years and gave me a framework, this victory framework that I've been using now to really affect a lot of lives. And finally realizing that God was kind of pushing me off the deep end. And so here I am.
Wild. Yeah, no, I think that's how a lot of times that happens, right? A lot of times we're not sure what the next step is or what we should do, or we don't have a lot of clarity. And sometimes it's just a matter of kind of taking that leap and saying, "Hey, I'm gonna bet on me and I'm gonna take that next step." So I'd love for you to talk, and you and I have talked pretty in depth about this. So I'd love for you to talk about that victory framework and what that is, and then how you're going to be using it moving forward.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. So the victory framework is what I've come to realize is that in order to build true, unshakable, real confidence in who you are, who God's created you to be, there's some foundational pieces that have to be set in place. And it's in the leadership industry. There's a lot of mindset hacks and quick fixes, and say your affirmations in the mirror with feeling and gusto, and make it passionate and bring all your senses into it. There's a place for that, and it's good, and those are all great things. Learning how to uh, kind of force your subconscious into um, alignment. What Orrin Woodward says is aligning the ant with the elephant. Vince Pacenti wrote a great book called The Ant and the Elephant, how the subconscious is like different from your conscious thought. And there was a study that was done that said in 1 second of conscious thought, your brain fires about 2,000 neurons. But in that
Oh,
same second of subconscious thought, your brain fires 4 billion neurons. And it's the equivalent of an ant riding on the back of an elephant. And the story that Vince Pacenti writes in his book is a great analogy of the difference in trying to align the ant with the elephant. If your elephant subconscious is going in the wrong direction, it doesn't matter how much conscious effort you put into something, the elephant's charging in the wrong direction. So
yeah.
if you don't fix the core, if you don't have a foundation first, all those mindset hacks and subconscious tricks, they're just band-aid fixes. And so the victory framework is starting with vision. Unless you know where you're going, there's no reason to do anything else. You have to start with the end in mind. Begin with the end in mind. Start with why. You've heard all these things from great authors in the past, and it's all true. You have to have a vision for where you're going. What does it look like? What does it smell like? What does it taste like? What does it get all the senses involved? You have to really think about and get the subconscious involved. What does it look like? Where do you want to go? What is God calling you to? And on the tails of that, so the V is vision, the I is identity, understanding who you are, who God's created you to be, and aligning that with your vision. And figuring that out, you begin to understand a little bit more what your purpose might be. And there's more to that. Obviously, we could talk all day just on that subject, but vision has to come first. Otherwise, there's no reason to do any of the other work. Then understanding who you are, who you were created to be. What does God say you are supposed to do? Who you are? What is your purpose? Why are you here? Understanding who you are and your authority in Christ. As a Bible believing Christian, I'm not shy about my faith in Christ alone. I will work like it depends on me, and I'll pray like it depends on God, because both are required, right? So V is vision, I is identity, the C is character. If you don't develop a solid character, it doesn't matter what you do, you're going to crash and burn. And your conscious confidence is always going to take a hit if your character is not solid.
Yeah.
You can fake it for a while. You can fool some of the people some of the time, but you can't fool all the people all the time, right? You will be found out. If your character is not solid, if you're not intentionally building your character, your confidence is going to take a hit. Success in the long run is not going to be there. You will lose it all. And then on the heels of that comes trust. And I look at it in three areas. Confidence begins with learning how to trust yourself. Because if you don't trust yourself, you're not going to have confidence, no matter what you do. Then learning how to build trust with others. When you know you can trust others, you're going to have a certain level of confidence, knowing that you can trust yourself, learning how to trust others, and then ultimately learning how to trust God. That's the most important one that most people don't get. If you can learn how to trust God, that I can do all the effort and make all the I can do all the work, I can put all the effort in, but ultimately it's up to God. And when you see, like I have, that God always follows through, God always comes through in the darkest moments, when life is the hardest, when you feel like you want to give up, God always comes through. And when you can learn how to trust that God will do that, your confidence will skyrocket. So vision, identity, character, trust. And this is the big one. The O is operate. I look at it as open heart surgery. You have to operate on the heart level stuff. You've got to get in, dig in, and fix the issues from your past. You've got to deal with trauma and failure and all of the issues that set you back. You have to deal with what I call the confidence killers, things like unrepentant sin, addictions. Let's see, what's his name? Pete Scazzaro. I wrote a great couple of books, the Emotionally Healthy series. And one of the quotes in there that hit me like a ton of bricks a few years back when we were reading it as a small group, he said, if I can remember this correctly, let me think, the inability to grieve well is the beginning of all addiction. Man,
I think you're spot on with that. And one of the things too that I want to highlight, because I think and I want to let you finish getting through this, but I do want to
yeah, go
highlight
ahead.
something that I had a real, I don't know if you would call it epiphany or anything like that, but I realized like the things that I was praying for, right? My actions weren't in alignment with what I was praying for, right? And
Yeah,
so I think a lot of times, whether, whoever you pray to, right? Like at the end of the day, like you can sit there and pray and desire and want and all of those things. But if what you're doing on a day-to-day basis isn't in alignment with the things that you're actually asking for and praying for and hoping for
right.
and trying to get in alignment with, like those things have to match up. And what I realized was like, man, there's such a dichotomy in the things that I want and then the actions I'm taking on a daily basis. And what happens is over time, and exactly what you were talking about, is you almost wind up building that inherent trust within yourself. The trust winds up kind of building on itself,
Mm-hmm.
because if there's ever a doubt or question, your actions are now in alignment with the things that you are praying for, right? And so a lot of times that self-doubt, those things that are kicking in, you can always revert back to the actions that you're actually taking. And I want to touch on vision too, because I think that that's so important. right? I feel like it's been a common theme that's been coming up in some of these calls too is, one of the things like we're talking about books. I just read the book from Benjamin Hardy, Become Your Future Self Now. And so
Yeah.
one of the things that I've been doing is I have a reminder that pops up on my computer, my phone, like 3 times a day that says like, what are you doing today that your future self is going to thank you for? Right. And so
That's good. Yeah.
a lot of times what I'm trying to do is consistently put myself in the position of like, man, I don't want to go to the gym. Man, I don't want to do this extra 2 hours of work. I can just push it off till tomorrow. But like, is my future self going to thank me? My future self, as in my tomorrow self, going to thank me if I just knock this stuff out today? Right. I just wanted to highlight those points because as you're talking, I was like, yes, like there's so much noise in our world that sometimes it's hard to get that clarity and the understanding of like what is the framework that we should be working through to achieve what we want to become. Like, how do we
Hmm.
become the person that we're envisioning, our future self, right? So
Yeah.
sorry to sidetrack us there. And I
No,
want you to
great points.
finish. I want you to finish here, but those were just some really key points that have been, there's no doubt in my mind why we connected, right?
Right.
And now we're having this conversation is because a lot of these things that, you know, I've been recognizing, like you've already built the framework for it, which is amazing. So, but yeah, please finish.
Yeah, no worries. But before I go into that, there's another great book on that topic of what is your future self gonna wish you done. Great book by Chris Brady called PAILS. It's also an acronym: Potential Actualization into Legacy and Spillage. The subtitle is 20 years from now, what will you wish you had done today? It's a
Wow. Okay.
fantastic book on that subject. I can't think of any other book on that topic that is so clear, so concise, and so powerful. I can send you a copy. I have extras.
Yeah, that's
So
so
just
it's
let me know.
funny. It's funny you say that, and I think I've told one person this, and now there's going to be a bunch of people that know this. But after reading that book by Benjamin Hardy, I actually went into, you can create chat GPTs, like your own GPT. So what I did is I actually spent probably about 5 or 6 total hours putting together like who is Drew in 20 years, right? Like what is everything
Wow.
like that who is that person, right? And really kind of curating and figuring out like who is the person that I'm wanting to become, like that I can almost chase after.
Wow.
Um and I
I love
wound up
that.
putting all that information into a GPT. And so randomly I haven't used it as much as I should be, if we're
Hmm.
being honest here, but it was very interesting because it was able to give me now is it going to be 100% accurate? Is it's AI, like I'm not
Right.
it's not like I'm sitting here having a conversation with it 24/7, but there's some moments where I'm like I'm struggling or I'm out of it or whatever it is, and I can simply just like talk to kind of that future
Hmm.
self of who I'm trying to go after, you know what I mean? So
Interesting
it's
idea.
it's
Like that.
fun. Yeah, it's a
Could be
I don't
fun.
know.
Fun experiment.
Yeah, it was an experiment for sure,
Yeah.
right? It's not something that like I said, I'm not sitting here talking to it all day long and telling it all my problems and all that sort of stuff. It was more the process of creating it, right? Because it really
Right.
made me think of like, wait, who is that person? Like, who am I now? And then who,
Yeah.
who am I trying to become? And so it was actually more of the process of doing the work than it actually was implementing that into that GPT, right? So,
Exactly.
but it was interesting how that turned out. So,
On that point, it's great that you kind of recognize it. It's the work that goes into it that really helps you out. It reminds me of a quote. Henry Ford said, "Thinking is the hardest work there is. That's why so few people do it." And that's exactly what we're talking about here. Is how do you how do you edge? How do you become who you wish to be? But you have to identify who you wish to be first,
right.
right? So going back to the framework, being operate, kind of went into that, dealing with the confidence killers, and then on the heels of that, learning how to heal and do the heart work, which is the hardest work, right? On the heels of that, the R is relationships. It's all about association. We're here on this earth. We're relational beings. God designed us to be in relationship with him and with one another. You have to learn how to build and foster good, solid relationships, and all the prior topics: vision, identity, character, trust, learning how to operate and deal with your issues, shave off some of the sharp edges, so to speak. All of those build into building those relationships and learning how to foster good relationships. Get people around you that are going to champion your cause, that are going to really champion your cause and encourage you and be supportive and love what you're doing, whether they would do it or not. Foster those relationships. Get good people around you. Find people that are better than you, that will encourage you and lift you up. And also learn how to distance yourself and limit those other toxic relationships. And this can be one of the hardest things, because oftentimes it's family. Well, I'm just trying to protect you. You really shouldn't do that, because isn't that kind of risky? And they say all these things, but really they're saying, I don't support you. Even if their words say, I support you, but don't do it.
Well, and
Sometimes that can be a good thing, and listen to those, but you have to limit that.
I think I'd love to stop on this point, because I think that this is something that comes up a lot, right? And one of the things that I didn't have the awareness of it. And really what it was is like, I was trying to build something. I actually just talked about this yesterday with a client. And one of the things I realized was, I didn't have, when I first started like DB Impact, or like even any other ventures and things that I went after, a lot of times I lacked the vision. So when I would have people that were close to me questioning, like, well, what are you doing? Or why are you doing it? Or those sort of things, right? I I would move away from those conversations, right? I didn't want to have
Mm-hmm.
those conversations because I wasn't actually confident in the vision that I had. I was still trying to figure it out, right? And
Yeah.
so I love the way of how you're kind of breaking this down, because I do think that at a point when you're focused on relationships, if you're so utterly confident in your vision and your ability to bring that vision to life, right? A lot of times the relationships of the people that are closest to you, most of the time, and this is my experience, so everybody's experience is different, but most of the time the people that are closest to me, they're scared for me, right? They're
Yeah.
scared that I'm going to
Yeah.
fail. They're scared that I'm not going to accomplish something and I'm going to be in a bad place, right? Or something's going to happen. And a lot of times, like, you can't fault the people that are the closest to you for lacking your vision, because they're never going to have your vision. But
Right.
it's also your responsibility to be able to articulate that vision to them so well that even if they don't understand it, they're like, all right, go for it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you
Absolutely.
you understand what you're doing. You've thought through the downfalls, the positives, the bads, the goods, whatever that is. And that has been a big change for me, right? Is because at the end of the day, I shouldn't say I don't care. I no longer accept certain feedback, because all
Mm-hmm.
they're doing is, I'm looking at that going, are they seeing something I'm not seeing? Right. And if I've already thought
Mm-hmm.
through it, I can accept it as they care about me, but I don't need to
Right.
accept it as like, oh, I shouldn't do this anymore. Right. And that
Right.
comes from confidence, vision, everything else that you just said. And so I just
Mm-hmm.
want to, like, what you're talking about is in direct alignment with, you have to do those first few things up front, because when it
Right.
gets to those relationship pieces, like, you don't have to cut them off. You just have to not accept some of the words that are being spoken to you, because
Mm-hmm.
they don't have the same vision or experiences or conversations that you're having, right?
Right. It boils down to certainty. Because
Right.
if you've done all of the hard work already, when you come into those relationships and those conversations, it's a neurolinguistic programming, NLP. Certainty is, whoever wins the argument is going to be the one who's more certain. You could be
Right.
dead wrong, but if you come into the conversation with absolute certainty, you're going to win that argument or conversation or that sale or whatever it is, because you're certain. Even if you're dead wrong, you're certain. It's that certainty. If you've done the homework and you go into those relationships, you
Mhm.
just know. And that has a lot to do with that confidence level. And that's this whole framework putting together. It's creating a certainty in your spirit that now you can go and begin to apply some of those other things and really take that to the next level and excel. But
Yeah.
if you try
And
to do all these other things first, but you don't have the foundation, you're going to fall flat.
when I used to take a lot of that stuff very personal, right? Because and what I realized is it was an insecurity or a lack of vision or a lack of confidence or whatever those other pieces are. And now I can go into certain conversations and just accept it for what it is, right?
Right.
And I take the pieces that I should think about and the ones that I shouldn't, I don't I don't attribute as like, oh, they're not confident in me. I take it as like I'm not clear on my vision. I haven't expressed or been able to talk about that in such a way that shows my confidence in this so that they're also
Mm-hmm.
confident in it, right? It's a direct reflection of how I'm communicating that information,
Right.
you know? So, yeah.
Yeah. And that leads right into the why, which is just say yes. Say yes to opportunity. And a big part of that saying yes is doing the homework, digging in, making sure that you know the answers to these things. Prepare so that when you say yes, you've done all of the preparation work necessary. You've asked all of the tough questions. You can make sure that your yes is done well. You know, let's say if the yes is a big one for me. So short story. I know a guy in Nigeria. He runs a international Christian businessmen's organization called Marketplace Apostles. And we got connected because I got in, started doing some business with his brother. His brother introduced me to him. We just started developing this great relationship. His values align with mine. Let's build entrepreneurs. Let's encourage them and give them the tools needed so that they can rise to bring Nigerians out of poverty is his goal. I'm like, yeah, I can support that. Let's go. And so I started to do some online, some of his weekly meetings, some of his monthly seminars. And then I started to show up online for some of his annual events called Make in Nigeria. And every year around January or February, he would come to me and say, Philip, please come speak to my people. Right. I'm like, man, Nigeria, that's a big ask. I don't know, man.
Yeah.
That's the proposition. And isn't it kind of not really safe for like white people, like Christians? Are we like, how's this? I was really hesitant for several years. And, I would say, I'm not ready for that. And in my mind, I'm going, I don't know that I'll ever do that, but we'll see. And finally, in January of 2024, like clockwork, he came to me, Philip, please come. And it was like the Holy Spirit just spoke to me, like right dead through his eyes, right through the screen, said, are you going to listen to me now? And I'm like, oh, it's coming from you. Oh, okay. I'm like, so I said yes to God. And in the process, I was saying yes to my friend Uche. And so I stepped back and decided, okay, well, I said yes. Now, how am I going to make my yes work? How am I going to actually follow through on this? And so it took 6 months of planning. I had to go through all the steps to redo my passport because it had expired. So all the steps that go into traveling internationally and planning, and it was a mess. But then I had to plan my talk too. I had to figure out, okay, what am I going to say? What does God want me to say? How am I going to make this work? How am I going to prepare so that when I actually arrive, it works and it is effective? And so that's a big part of saying yes is doing the hard work up front. But really, it's the 15 years in leadership that I've been studying and reading and talking and speaking, 15 years worth of prep. Now
Right.
I just take 6 months of, okay, well, now let me just get the specifics in order. Now I can be confident that I'm going to fulfill the yes and do well. And then he invites me back the next year. So I went this last September. And this last September, I show up and I've told the story before that I'm in my hotel room and God shows up and he drops this victory framework and just solidified all of these lessons that he's taught me over 15 years. Well, I'd really over a whole life, but now that it's solidified into this victory framework, I'm able to take what I've already been using and training, but really dial it in, really get focused. And I'm now able to identify and be very specific in how I help people rather
Yeah.
than just, hey, I got a bunch of knowledge and sure, I'll mentor you. Okay, great. You're having some success. But I had no formula. I had no way, okay, hey, let's read this book and talk through it. That was the extent of what I did. Okay, well, explain this to me. All right, let me help you think through this. And that was the extent. So now I actually have a formula and a precise process, and I'm seeing tremendous results through just walking through this process. And it's been phenomenal. I could tell you so many stories up to that. So just to summarize the victory framework, V is vision. You have to have vision. You have to know where you're going. If you don't have a target to hit, you're going to hit it with amazing accuracy, right? If you don't know where you're going, you're already there. I is identity. Know who you are, know whose you are. C is character, absolutely foundational in building confidence. T is trust. Learning how to trust yourself is a big one, building trust with others, and then learning how to trust God. O is operate. Operate on the heart level, deal with past issues and trauma, deal with the confidence killers, learn how to forgive, learn how to get out of addiction. And sometimes that requires professional help. And there's a lot of people that do that. That's not me, but I'll tell you that the biggest is just getting right with Christ. That's number one. And then R is relationships. Y is just say yes. And of course, when you say yes, another big piece of that is learning how to say no. Learning how to identify what yes is aligned with your vision and learning how to say no to the things that aren't. Good is the enemy of great. You can say yes to a lot of good things, but if they distract from your purpose and your goal and your vision, you should say no to them. So that's the victory format. That's the framework.
Yeah. No, I love that. And I love that, in a world of immediate gratification, right? I think one of the biggest things that you've laid out is it's a process, right? And I think anything that has that stickability in somebody's life, whether it be business or personal, I think it really comes down to you can create some band-aids for a lot of things, right? You can pretend that you got over this past trauma or this past relationship or this past situation or whatever that is. You could pretend a lot, but that stuff winds up manifesting in multiple places. I think the fact that you're not taking that quick, band-aid approach is what's going to actually lead to massive changes in men, right? And I think that that's something that is very needed.
Especially for men.
Yeah.
Especially in today's toxic masculinity. We got a bunch of men running around who haven't dealt with past trauma. They haven't dealt with their daddy left home issues. They haven't dealt with all the things that we men deal with. We got to step up. We got some work to do.
Yeah, and I think the one thing for me and what I would say is like I've been through a lot. Like and I'm not going to dig into all the details of my past on this call, but I will say one of the things that really hit me like a ton of bricks is I understood that I was going through cycles, right? Like I would be I'd be very good for 3 months and then all of a sudden I was in a not so good mental place. Or I'd be really good 3 months in business and all of a sudden something would happen and it would send me down another rabbit hole. And
guilty.
I mean, I think everybody is, right? Like,
yeah.
But I think the biggest part through your framework that I see that's going to be just additionally impactful is you start to learn how to break some of those cycles, right? And you do that through activity, awareness, understanding understanding what choices you're making on a daily basis, and you're talking about the subconscious. One of the biggest, and going back to that praying for and doing, it was very hard for me to trust myself. And this is probably very true for a lot of men out there, but I'm somebody that I feel very confident that, I'm a man of my word, right? Like if I tell
Mhm.
somebody I'm going to do something for them, I'm going to do it. Have I fallen short in the past? For sure, right? Like
Welcome to the club.
I'm sure, I'm sure there's people out there that like, no, he's a liar, right? Like, yes, have I fallen short as a human being before? 100%. Like,
Mm,
but what I really realized was I try and to to my best ability to be that person, right? Like if I tell you I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. If I can't do it, you're at least going to hear from me on why I was not able to accomplish what I told you I was going to do, right?
yep.
What I realized was I was I was that person to everybody else, but I was not that person to myself.
Mm,
I would
I
tell
love it.
myself, I'm going to get up and go to the gym. I'm going to do this. I'm going to
Bingo.
do that. I'm going to do blah blah blah, whatever it is, right? Why do I follow through for everybody else but I wasn't following through for myself?
Right.
And that was like a huge moment for me where I was like, man, there is something going on here that you got to figure out, man. Because
Yeah.
like if you can show up for everybody else, but then you write stuff down or the things that you need to do for yourself and you're not following through on those, talk about conscious and subconscious being out of order. Like
Yeah.
how do you deal with that, right? And so that
Right.
was a big thing for me. I still struggle with it, of course. Like I think everybody does, but I gave up having to try and be perfect and just trying to be better at that. You know what I
Yes.
mean?
Yes.
And so, but that was a big one for me. Like, that was an aha, like, ooh, this doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Like, you show up for everybody, right? Because that's what you
Right.
told them you do. Why are you not following through on the things you told yourself you were going to do? So that was a
It's really
moment
the
for
art
me.
of character and trust right there.
Yeah.
If you say, I'm going to get up at 7 a.m., you set your alarm for 7, but you hit the snooze 3 times, you just told your subconscious that you're a liar and you can't trust yourself.
Right.
Right.
Uh,
What
like,
happens when you flip that
100%.
script? I'm going to get up at 7. You set the alarm for 7. The alarm goes off and you say, okay, flip the covers, get out of bed. Now you
And you
just
do
told
it.
your subconscious, I'm a man of my word. I can be trusted. I do what I say I'm going to do when I say I'm going to do it. Okay, we're starting the day off right. There's a little win. Boom. Now
Yeah. But
let's start stacking those
that
wins throughout the day. The
was,
foundation of building real confidence.
yeah, I love it. Uh, it's fun. Like I said, it's funny how we're having these, like I would say my last 6 months in just life in general, I've had a lot of these like moments of all of a sudden I come across somebody and I'm like, oh, I was dealing with this. And you're like, yep, this is what I teach here, So like, this is great. Awesome. Well, Philip, I will wrap up here, but I want to give you a chance just to kind of talk specifically about who you're looking to work with, what the next year kind of looks like for you, and then we'll wrap up here.
Cool. Yeah, thanks. So, just to kind of put a cap on all of this, all of these lessons are lessons that I have either personally learned the hard way, most of them the really hard way. Some of them I'm still learning. I'm not perfect. I'm fallible. I'm a messed up human being just like everybody else, and we can do it together. We can work through together. I'm not an expert. I'm not the guy who knows it all, but I've learned a bunch of things and I can help people get to where I've gotten. And so, with that being said, this victory framework over the next year is going to be I'm putting together a 12-month course where we're going to walk through together. I've got two different kind of a do-it-yourself method where get involved in a community with some community chat and kind of get plugged in and work through some modules on your own pace, ask questions in the group chat kind of thing. And then there's going to be a more of an elite course that will have more one-on-one, some personal reflection, time with me personally to kind of come in and dissect and answer questions and really kind of walk through some of the heart level stuff. And then so there'll be kind of two framework offers, and really I'm focused on Christian entrepreneurs, business leaders. If you own a company, if you're CEO, if you're upper management, and you have a foundation in Christ, and you just can't seem to hit that next level. You can't figure out what it is that's keeping you blocked. That is what this course is really designed to hone in on, focus on, help you identify some of the things that are killing your confidence to help you get to that next level. A lot of times I have found that you know what to do. You've got knowledge, you know what to do. You just can't seem to get off your butt and do what you know you should do, or you're not sure how to go about it. How do I tackle this issue? I know I've got this issue, but I don't know how to solve it. And that's what this program is really designed to get in and help you identify, help you fix, and help you get to that next level so that you can be more productive for the kingdom of God. Because as you make more money, obviously the goal is that you tithe more money. It produces more for the church. It produces more for the kingdom of God. And it really gives an example of, hey, Christians are messed up. Yes, but we're working better through Christ to become better. And through that process, God will bless us so that we can bless others. And that's really the goal. I'm looking for Christian business owners. Primarily for now, I'm looking for more in the Seattle, Bellevue area to do more of a cohort style one-on-one, a lot more FaceTime. And I'm going to start with that and then kind of expand from there as we really kind of launch the victory framework out to more people.
I love it. I love it, man.
The site's going to be up shortly. philipbrittain.com, 1L, 2 T's.
Love it. Well, we will once we get this posted, up on YouTube and all that stuff, we'll definitely put a link directly to that website once it's live. But I want to thank you, man, for your time having this conversation. I know there's going to be a lot of men out there that even if they're just picking up little bits of what we talked about, I think are going to be super impactful. So I'm excited to see what this next year brings for you, and continuing to help wherever we can. So
Yeah,
I appreciate it.
absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you, Drew. It's been a pleasure chatting with you. And it just dawned on me, that's actually my speaker website. The website for this program will be iwantvictory.com. It'll be live shortly, hopefully within the next couple of days. So,
love it, man. Yeah, we'll get both of those with the video so that people are able to visit right from there. So awesome.
awesome, Drew, man. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.